I have given this segment of the show, so you should know in the way my podcast works, we break up each hour of the show for the podcast. We've tried it both ways, the full show or the breakup, and we go with each hour, and each hour has a title, the main thing of the hour. I have entitled this hour of the program, Fang did the bang bang with Swalwell, but Ginni Thomas. I mean, here's the thing. Ginni Thomas is the wife of Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice, who has now been released from the hospital. And Ginni Thomas, her text messages to Mark Meadows, then the White House Chief of Staff, have been obtained by the January 6th committee and been released publicly, and they are bad. Ginni Thomas, the wife of a sitting Supreme Court justice, asked the White House Chief of Staff to elevate Sidney Powell's Kraken theory of the stolen election and subvert the election of the President of the United States because Ginni Thomas believed the election was stolen. I know a lot of people believe the election was stolen. I know very few people who take the Sidney Powell Kraken lawsuit seriously. Now, there were a lot of people at the time around January 6th who did, based on her claims, but once they've been aired out, even Sidney Powell's legal team has largely rejected Sidney Powell's theory of the case. Part of Sidney Powell's Kraken lawsuit was a belief that the electronic voting machines were being controlled by Hugo Chavez's zombie ghost and the Iranians and some Italians to throw the lawsuit or throw the election of Donald Trump to Joe Biden. It's not true. It's crackpot theory, and Sidney Powell is being sued for $1 bajillion and will probably be disbarred and go bankrupt, and she deserves all of it. She lied and abused the trust of a lot of people, including, it appears, Ginni Thomas. I don't know why the olds don't use Signal or some other app that's more secure than your standard SMS text messaging. At least if you use iMessage and you don't do the backups, the iCloud backups, your messages are secure and you can get rid of them, and the government can't get them. But, the government got Ginni Thomas's, and they're not good. They're not defensible. There's no reason to defend Ginni Thomas's text messages. But, not going to defend her text messages, but if we're going to focus on the wife of a Supreme Court justice, maybe the media should spend a little more time on Hunter Biden's emails about his dad. Because occasionally it comes up and it turns out there is a grand jury looking at Hunter Biden. But Hunter Biden had specific emails about the requirement from his father to give his father kickbacks. And what some members of the media still want to say is, well, those could be Russian plans. Those could actually be Russian disinformation. Everything else may be true, but no, that's nonsense. Joe Biden has been a public servant his entire life. And yet Joe Biden has the net worth of someone who looks like he must have made it big in the private sector, because Joe Biden has a very high net worth for a man who has lived in the public sector and whose wife is a school teacher. How did that happen? How did Joe Biden become a very wealthy man? If he's been he's been in the Senate for 50 years? I know what a senator makes. It's public record. How does Joe Biden's net worth the way it is when he works there and his wife works at public VOTEC schools or technical colleges or what have you, community colleges? I know what the average salary of a community college teacher is. I'm sorry, with a doctorate. She's got a doctorate. Did you know that his wife is Dr. Jill Biden? We have it in the record in printed form that Hunter Biden was using his Ukraine and Chinese contacts and sending money back to dad for the use of his name. And the media wants to talk about Ginni Thomas. What's worse? A wife of a justice of the Supreme Court unsuccessfully tried to get the president of the United States and his chief of staff to believe a crank lawyer who's now being sued over the election, or the son of the sitting president used the sitting president's name and got financial kickbacks and directed some of the funds to the president of the United States, who now is president of the United States, at the time was vice president of the United States, and was steering governmental policy in China and Ukraine as vice president, and now as president. Really? What's worse? Oh, January 6th, you mean it was unsuccessful? But Hunter Biden was very successful getting money from foreign entities and redirecting that money to his father. Joe Biden is a wealthy man, and he is wealthy because of private sector business experience, of which Joe Biden was never in the private sector. So how did it happen? There had to be a way, and Hunter Biden's emails seem to dictate that way. People in the media want to give Joe Biden a pass. They feel sorry for him because Beau died and Hunter's a failure. Sounds like Joe was working the Hunter Biden system. Don't have to defend Ginni Thomas. But there's been an inordinate amount of attacks on Ginni Thomas in the past year from media outlets like the New Yorker and the New York Times and the Washington Post, even before these emails came out, and they were patently refusing to ever talk about Hunter Biden. What about Dianne Feinstein? Dianne Feinstein's husband has had a number of business deals in China. She herself had Chinese spies working on her Senate staff, including, I think, her driver. Seems like her family has profited from business dealings that she has profited from during her time in the Senate, or Nancy Pelosi's husband. The amount of times Nancy Pelosi's husband seemingly has made stock trades that suggest he had knowledge that the rest of us did not have. Nancy Pelosi became a very wealthy person because of it. And then there's Eric Swalwell on the Intelligence Committee, who had some sort of relationship with Fang, the Chinese spy. Now, Swalwell was not on the Intelligence Committee, contrary to popular belief. He was not on the Intelligence Committee at the time, but the man clearly lacked some discernment, and yet is now on the Intelligence Committee. And the Democrats, they don't want to get him off the Intelligence Committee. Fang might have done the bang with Swalwell, and the Democrats are perfectly fine with him being on the Intelligence Committee for the United States House of Representatives. How does this work exactly? You want to talk about conflicts of interest? No, they don't actually want to talk about conflicts of interest. The media does not want to talk about conflicts of interest. They want to attack a man on the Supreme Court because of what his wife's text messages said, but they do not want to ever question a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives on the Intelligence Committee who showed such bad form that he was hanging out with a Chinese spy. And they don't want to talk about Nancy Pelosi's husband's stock deals. Oh, well, the speaker supports prohibiting stock trades in Congress. She actually doesn't. But they don't want to actually investigate it. They don't want to investigate what she knew, what her husband knew, what the deals were, or her family, the rest of her family. It's not just the husband. I believe there are other family members as well. They wanted to attack Kelly Loeffler when she was in the U.S. Senate for supposed insider trading, but they don't want to go after the Democrats. They don't want to question the Democrats on this. And they do not want to question Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. There's no reason to contort yourself to defend Ginni Thomas, but I think it's worth pointing out that, yes, they want to go after her, and they never, ever want to go after the Democrats. They do not want to implicate the Democrats in anything. They always want to protect the Democrats. Where's the New Yorker story on the Pelosi family business dealings? Where's the New Yorker story on Hunter Biden's emails that suggest he was giving his dad a kickback? Where are the attacks from Jane Mayer on the Democrat insider trading? You never see that stuff. The Koch brothers aren't involved, so she doesn't care. She can't twist it to make it look bad. And you know what? You don't have to twist it to make it look bad. It's bad on the surface. Hunter Biden's emails and what he says, they're bad for his father. This week, Democrats are taking the position that to merely ask tough questions of a black nominee for the United States Supreme Court is racist. But they also think you need to impeach the only black man on the United States Supreme Court because of what someone else did. That someone was his wife, to be fair. But he didn't do it. He's not involved. He's not mentioned. He's not implicated. Yet we got the spouses of members of Congress engaged in shady dealings, and they happen to be Democrats. So let's not talk about that. We got the son of the President of the United States engaged in shady business dealings with emails documenting paying his father parts of the money, and let's not talk about that. But Ginni Thomas, they want to talk about that. The bias is not in how something is covered as much as the bias is in what is covered. And you're going to hear a lot about Ginni Thomas. She should not have done what she did. She got deluded by the nutters. She got convinced by the Sidney Powell lawsuit that will probably wind up getting Powell disbarred. But she is not her husband. And it is remarkable how the left and feminists all the time want us to know that wives are not responsible for their husbands. Partners are not responsible for each other. But apparently Clarence Thomas is. You're not allowed to make anyone responsible for the actions of others unless it can help advance the left's agenda. Now, the problem here is these Ginni Thomas emails. They certainly make the January 6th committee, which was floundering, they certainly make it relevant again. They make it juicy for the media, and the media certainly wants to cover it because, remember, the media is desperate to tie January 6th to the Republicans at large. It's about the only thing they have to try to suppress the Republican vote and amplify the Democratic vote in November. So they're going to treat it with gusto. They're going to spend a lot of time. But I want you to note as they cover this how much they're ignoring and refuse to cover about Hunter Biden, Eric Swalwell, Nancy Pelosi's family, Dianne Feinstein's family, and all the others. Those are relevant stories, are they not? They're big stories, are they not? Those are people actually in power. Ginni Thomas is not. And there's nothing to suggest her husband knew or was involved. But hey, when you contrast a conservative on the Supreme Court and try to get him to start abstaining and backing away from being involved in decisions and raising supposed conflicts of interest when they never want to raise conflicts of interest about Democrats, I guess that's what the media does because they're all in the Democratic tank. There are a lot of people out there today, what about Ginni Thomas? You got to talk about Ginni Thomas. I've talked about Ginni Thomas. I won't defend it. It was bad, and she should apologize. But I would note for all of you who demand that you do not want to talk about Hunter Biden or the emails implicating his father. You do not want to talk about Nancy Pelosi and her family and their shady business deals. You don't want to talk about Dianne Feinstein. You don't want to talk about any of the Democrats. You want it your way all the time and never allow anyone to ask questions about Hunter Biden and his emails and the direct implications of his father because you're not the high-minded person you think you are. You are the partisan hack trying to protect the President of the United States from the clear implications of his son's emails that his father was benefiting from the son's shady business dealings. How does Joe Biden become a very wealthy man when his wife's a community school teacher and he is a public servant for 50 years? How does he become as wealthy as he is? Hunter Biden's emails might give us the clue, but you'd prefer to talk about Ginni Thomas so you can avoid that painful discussion.
I really do like his